How's it going, guys? This is Robert from Aputure Visuals, and here is a super simple breakdown on how to film basic interviews using just one light. This was a multi-day shoot for a software company at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. On top of filming event B-roll, we had to film several testimonial interviews, and we were given a super basic conference room, so the main challenge was making the location look as interesting as possible. I noticed that the conference room had these really interesting accent lights on the edges of the ceiling, so I wanted to try including those in the frame without positioning the camera too low for the talent's sake. This meant I needed to maximize on the room depth so I could be far enough away in order for them to be visible in the shot. We started out by moving all the tables from the center of the room, and this helped clean up the background and gave us really great fall off with our depth of field. I also noticed that there were two-toned walls, so I used that to my advantage and used the lighter wall segment to help visually frame the subject. To capture these interviews, we used a Sony FS7 and a Sigma 35mm mounted on a Metabone speed booster, and our main light source was the Aputure LightStorm LS1s. The LED panel is a daylight balance, so I threw on a full CTO to match the incandescent room lights. One important thing to note is that a full CTO will cut your light output in half because the transmission is just over 55%. This really wasn't an issue because I rated the FS7 at its native ISO of 2000 and metered at an f2. I shot the LightStorm into a 2x3 silk mounted on a C-stand to soften up the light source. Remember, the larger the light source, the softer the light source. Now, light placement is really important when setting up interviews, and I always try to wrap my light just over the nose to emulate Rembrandt lighting, and this always depends on how much contrast I want in the face. I would have liked to bring a balance board to add some fill, but I didn't want to be bogged down with too much extra equipment. We were already rolling pretty heavy with all my gear. With all the ceiling lights, we were getting some really nasty overhead spill on the subjects. We didn't have anything on hand to cut the light on day one, so we just hung Mike's shirt on a C-stand to help with managing all the extra light. It didn't block the overhead lights completely, but it did manage eliminating some overhead spill. It wasn't the most elegant of solutions, but hey, we managed. On day two, I made sure to bring one of my large foldable reflectors and propped it on a C-stand directly overhead the talent. You can see a massive difference it makes in these two shots with and without the flag. Controlling light that can potentially contaminate your scene is always important and does a lot when refining your look. For audio, I ran with the Sennheiser AVX lavs using the Tram TR50 microphones. It's my go-to lav because of its flat profile and how easy it is to hide. I personally think visible mics look a little tacky when they're in frame, so I always try to hide my lavs when I can. Using a lav mic was a great choice because we did have an interviewee that moved around a lot, and a boom mic probably wouldn't be ideal because his voice would have kept going off axis from the microphone. The lav did a great job at maintaining a consistent recording level. Since I was running audio myself, the AVX system is great since I don't have to worry about programming the units to find a clean channel. It does it all automatically. Prior to every interview, I made sure to write down each interviewee's name and audio channel assignments on a slate. This helps the editor when sifting through the footage so that they know how to spell the name correctly and which audio channels are which. I probably use this setup for a majority of my interviews. All you really need is a light and some diffusion. Feel free to add an optional balance and use something like a foldable reflector or 4x floppy to cut excess light and avoid any spill. Turning conference rooms into visually interesting backgrounds is always challenging, and sometimes you just have to play the cards that are dealt. What are your thoughts on this interview setup? Would you have done anything differently? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. I hope this video was helpful in some way, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.